Hello and welcome to another edition of Turned Out a Punk. I'm your host, Damian Abraham. And once again, I'm bringing you a conversation with someone who grew up listening to punk, may or may not still be involved with punk, but had their life changed by the genre in a major way. And today on the show, not one, but two amazing guests from the Eric André Show, from the movie Bad Trip, and from the brand new book, Dumb Ideas. Eric André and Dan Curry are here. And it is a fun conversation. And I'll tell you more about it in 1 second. But first, if you want to get in touch with me, head over to the email address, turnedoutapunkpodcast@gmail.com. That is run by my brother and show producer and guest booker extraordinaire, Tristan Abraham, and he will get the message to me. You can also find me on Twitter or Instagram at Left4Damian. If you want to get in touch with the show, you hit that email address, or you head over to Turned Out a Punk at Turned Out a Punk on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, or Instagram. There's pages for Turned Out a Punk on all those platforms. And you can find out stuff about the show over there. Check out videos or all sorts of other stuff that you do on those platforms. I don't know. I play in a band. We are called Fucked Up. If you're listening to this when it came out, we are currently on tour. You can find out more information over at fuckedup.cc. We're in Europe. And get also records that we put out and merch and other stuff. We have upcoming tours and all sorts of fun stuff. You can find it all over there at fuckedup.cc. Brand new record called Show Friends 2. Probably a couple other new records. We put out a lot of records. I'm looking at a stack right now. Oh, Live at the Rivoli record too. Lots of new stuff over there. Check it on out. All right, on to today's show. As I said off the top, on the show today, Dan Curry and Eric André. From the Eric André Show, from the movie Bad Trip, and from this new book, Dumb Ideas, all of which are hilarious. Dan is Eric's writing partner. They go way back when they met while talking about punk, as you'll find out, or through punk, as you'll find out on this episode. Eric is someone I've wanted to have a sit-down conversation with for a long time, because as you'll hear on the show, first time I met him did not go very well. And the second time I met him did not go very well. And I assure him it was him the second time. I've had it verified from a bunch of other sources. It'll all make sense when you hear the episode. And that's it. I don't really want to go on too much because this is a very long episode. Eric is around for a bit, then has to run off and do Hollywood jet setty things. But Dan sticks around to talk about the core and the hardcore and the punks. And I guess the core is the hardcore. Maybe it's the ska core. We talk a little bit about ska. No, I don't think we talk anything about ska. Anyway, so you're going to hear it all in 1 second. As I said before, though, this brand new hilarious book, Dumb Ideas, is in stores now. And it's a fantastic book. It's kind of I guess the subtitle is a behind-the-scenes expose on making pranks and other stupid creative endeavors and how you can also too. And it is kind of a how-to book on pulling pranks. So maybe a don't try this at home. A precursor should be thrown out there as well. And but it's a fantastically funny book and goes through the whole sort of history, and it's kind of a biography as well, and behind the scenes on the Eric André Show, and it's a fun book, fun read, and that is available, as I said, from Simon & Schuster everywhere as of now. So sit back, relax, and enjoy Eric André and Dan Curry on Turned Out a Punk.
So we can cut out any. If you guys want to say private shit now that we're on the record, don't worry, I can cut it out afterwards.
Okay.
I realize
I was gonna read my journal out loud, but
well, we'll save that. We'll save that for the Patreon. I am very excited to talk to both of you today because I got your book this afternoon and it's fantastic. I've got 3 kids, so I was trying to get them out of the house. So I had to read 3 kids shit into the car, and then I'm reading the book at the same time. But fantastic book, huge fan of your work. Eric and Dan and Eric, thank you for coming to Turned Out a Punk.
No problem. 3 kids, that's no small feat.
No, Dan and I were just talking about it though.
Dan has 2, I have 0.
Well,
I've never even hugged a girl before.
It changes everything, I'm sure Dan's bored you with this kind of shit before. I thought we were gonna get all the dad talk off.
Yeah. There's a difference between 2 and 3, because 3, I know friends who had 3 kids and their faces changed. Like between 1 and 2 is one look, and then 3 is like, what have I done? I'm a number 3, so I get it.
My cousin has 4. Could you imagine having 4 kids?
No.
That's wild. What is Nick Cannon thinking? What's going on in Nick Cannon's mind?
He needs that operation. I learned about it from the circle jerks way back when. Vasectomy, it was preordained, but once we had 3, we're like, okay, we're going to cut this pipeline.
Nice. Cut the pipe.
I got to say, Dan, I'm very excited to meet you. Eric, I have met you twice before, both of which I would describe as 2 of the most embarrassing incidences of my life.
No.
First time was at Fuck Yeah Fest. I was on 2CI or 2CB or one of those researchy, chemically things. And
I've done one of those before.
And
I never did it again.
Yeah, exactly. And I got introduced to you, and I was convinced that you had been on my TV show in Canada. And so as I was being introduced to you, I kept insisting, no, we've met before. And
was it Beckles?
No. Beckles is a homie. I know Beckles. We're going to talk about Beckles. Don't worry. No, this was Eric. You had Octomom on your show.
Yeah. One time I was at the airport with Beckles, and somebody went. This woman came up to us. And she was like, "Are y'all brothers?" And then she goes, "Oh no, wait a minute!" And she pointed to Beckles. She goes, "You're the dad," and she pointed to me and said, "You're the son." And I started laughing, and Beckles did not find that funny. I'll tell you
that. I have talked to Beckles about trying to get him on the show because he's got stories. He knows where all the bodies are buried when it comes to Vice.
Oh yeah, no shit.
Oh yeah.
For sure, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot. Well, I'll let him lead the brigade on that.
Absolutely.
Hachi. So you were on 2CI and like looking at watching Octomom. You were like, "You've been on my show, man. I swear."
Yeah. And then I met you again at a Vice party where I was rolling on like 5,000 milligrams of THC in Toronto, where I decided it would be in my anxiety freak out moment that it would be a great idea to try and explain to you that I was high on drugs last time I had met you. And as we're being led through a Skrillex set to the backstage area, I'm like coming up to you high out of my mind being like, "Hey, Eric, it's great to meet you again. Last time I met you, I was high on 2CI." And you were very
Wait, what, where was this?
In Toronto at the Vice 20. Remember Skrillex played, A-Track played. You were there was Sarouche, and it was in a huge warehouse.
I think you're thinking of Derek Beckles again.
I'm definitely not. I swear to God.
I don't remember any of that.
This would have been about 12 years ago.
In Toronto, I never saw Skrillex and A-Track in Toronto.
Did you go to a Vice party at a crazy warehouse one time in Toronto?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
I swear this happened. I can call my brother as verification on this because he's like, "Don't do it, dude. Don't do it. Why are you doing this?"
You might be thinking of Jussie Smollett from Empire.
Yeah, it's probably Jussie Smollett.
Not thinking of Jussie Smollett.
Well, he's a man that faked a racial attack for a contract negotiation tactic.
Oh my God, we have gone already way downhill on this show. I apologize to both of you.
I've been a dad for 11 years, so I don't know what 2CI is. What is it?
It's rare. You don't have to even be a
It's
dad.
like a rare. It's like a deep
rare
drug.
It's rare. It's rare as heck.
I sold out straight edge at 30, so I don't drink, but I was very much into psychedelics and cannabis and all this kind of stuff. So it was a very exciting 30 to 35.
You kept edge for 30 years?
I did drugs when I was like 14 to like 16.
Then boom.
Then I went straight edge. I found the edge. There was no turning back.
Except there was.
Well, eventually, yeah. I realized like I'm so crazy. I'm on anti-anxiety pills. Like weed is definitely a much easier, more convenient solution, which I've heard you talk shit about weed, Eric, and I wanted to talk to you about this as we completely forget about.
Well, it increases my anxiety. Mm-hmm. It doesn't hit me right. It makes all my insecurities come to the forefront and makes me feel depressed, and I don't like it.
Are you a weed guy?
It just doesn't mix with my brain chemistry.
Yeah, I don't know. It must be a Northeast thing because I'm like you, Dan. I love the weed.
Yeah, I mean,
most people do.
Sometimes you can get to that paranoid moment. I didn't smoke weed for years because when it was illegal, you'd get it, and then you'd try some strain and some too much, and I would like get paranoid. And now that I know my dosage and like what strains I like, and usually they're helpful at the stores here, and I get what I want, and I can't imagine. I mean, I don't do it during the week anymore. Like I made a switch, and I'm trying not to drink at all, except Thanksgiving's coming, and I will.
It doesn't hit me right. It makes me antisocial. And I like drugs that reduce my anxiety and make me more social, not increase my anxiety, make me antisocial.
I found the opposite for me. Like I'm terrible anxiety issues, as you can clearly tell. But weed, I don't know. I find it much better than the anti-anxiety.
I would say I can't tell. You don't seem anxious.
Well, that's the weed. I guess it's working. So,
what were you taking for anti-anxiety? Benzodiazepine?
I did Paxil, Wellbutrin, because
SSRIs.
Yes, SSRIs, and then I would also take Ativans,
and did they help?
Lorazepams, Xanax.
Benzos and SSRIs. Would the SSRIs help?
I don't know. Like I look back on it now, and I think it just made me really angry and really mean.
Interesting.
I took Wellbutrin to quit smoking cigarettes, and I quit smoking, but I became a completely different person. And I would wake up like super joyful, but like weird. I was like, I'm super happy. I'm like, why? And I was like questioning this like supreme happiness that I was having, because it was like fake. It just felt like a fake happiness happening. Mm-hmm. And I sat because I don't think I should have been taking it, but it like they found a connection between Wellbutrin and quitting smoking. Like people who were taking Wellbutrin stopped smoking. So they're like, give it to smokers. And then it was like, it worked. And then, but it didn't, I went back to cigarettes because I was like, no, I don't want to do Wellbutrin anymore. Because I didn't trust, it was like happy, but there was something off about it, And I
had a brief try with Lexapro, and it was like that. Like in the morning, I'd be like, "Hey, I got pep in my step, and I have to get up and go to work." And but I was like, I don't have trouble waking up or starting my day, so it felt like I was like, I don't know if this is reducing my anxiety, but it's like making me weird.
Yeah, it's like a crunchy chemical happiness that it gives you.
Yeah, I guess it's better than clinical depression.
Yeah, like whatever works. Whatever works for people. I had crazy, not to get graphic, but I had sexual side effects from it, and that's why I went on the Wellbutrin from the Paxil and Prozac too. Just makes you not want to have sex in my case, and maybe that was better.
I couldn't jizz on the Lexapro. I remember having sex with my girlfriend and just being like, "I'm sorry, I can't. There's no end. There's no end in sight, and I have to go to bed."
SSRIs are like an orgasm killer. Like that's
it's strange. Not much joys you get to experience in life besides a bit of a cookie and an orgasm. So it's tough to take that away.
Well, before we lose every listener because we've swayed so much from the format, and because I want to talk to both of you about this shit so much, I'm going to pick a number in my head between 1 and 10, and I want each of you to pick the number to see who goes first. So I've got a number in my head. Dan, what's the number?
It's 8.
Okay. Eric, what's the number?
7.
The number is 5. Eric, you are closer. Eric, how'd you get into punk? Do you remember the first time you ever heard the word or came across it?
I think I got into Buttle Surfers first. My first crush was a punk rock girl, and then the very girl was like, that there's a song called "The Punk Rock Girl" by Dead Milkmen, and I was like, I think I saw them on Beavis and Butthead. So it was a mix of Dead Milkmen and Buttle Surfers and Beavis and Butthead, and then I think trying to impress her, diving into punk and like all the freaks and geeks and weirdos and all the alternative programming type kids all hung out at this one square in Boca Raton, Florida, called The Square. And that's where a lot of music was traded and discussed. So, I'd say Dead Kennedys, Dead Milkmen, Buttle Surfers. She was into the Exploited, but I didn't like Exploited. Subhumans, I loved. And also, when you first buy a guitar, the first thing you learn is a power chord, and the easiest thing to emulate is punk. It doesn't take any doesn't take a tremendous amount of virtuosic skill to get to a level of your like favorite songs. There are virtuoso punk players, but I think
it might be the only place that doesn't privilege virtuosity, where it's just like get up and fucking do it and figure out how to do it later.
Yeah.
Like nowhere else are they happy when you do that. As an untrained person, you get up and try and perform it, but with punk, it can work.
It's also the only place to go after Emerson, Lake and Palmer. There's like maximalism with prog rock, so like the only other place to go with rock was minimalism.
Mm-hmm.
So that seems to be the trajectory with all the lifespan of all music genres. They start out like kind of primitive and crude and experimental, and then they kind of find their like first gen shape. Then they get more and more progressive until they're at this like maximalist state. Then the only way out is through minimalism.
The only way home.
But I think it's also like, you know, especially with the Dead Kennedys and the Butthole Surfers as well, to a certain point, like it's also the place where like success is a completely self-defined metric. Like you don't have to get famous to do it. And like for first wave punk, everyone wants to become a rock star, right? Like all these bands want to become famous, but after a certain point, the Butthole Surfers had to know, like, okay, unless we're going to do Pepper, we're not going to get fucking famous. Like we're going to be we're too freaky, too weird.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like, and in fact, a lot of those bands were like being famous was a bad thing,
mm-hmm.
you know, and capitalism was a bad thing. So it's like, I also like responded to Dead Milkmen and Butthole Surfers and Dead Kennedys because they had a sense of humor.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like very important in art to have a sense of humor.
Yeah, I think, and it's interesting too, because like when Dan, we start talking about the stuff that you're kind of, well, at least the stuff you've dropped in the book, it's almost like hardcore in the 90s gets more and more humorless and less like, you know, Earth Crisis, who I think you even described as completely humorless.
Yeah, they are.
And it's fascinating how you have these like helixes going in punk at all different times, like the humor helix and like the serious helix and the art school helix versus the street rock and roll helix. And they're all kind of like intersecting together at different points, creating these bands. And, you know, when they're out of line with each other, you get stuff that's way more funny and way more goofy. And when they're out of line the other way, you get Earth Crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah, the hardcore bands were fucking humorless. What's that one that we like, Dan? The
Downset.
Sex Kills.
Sex Kills is a great song.
One of the greatest. This is the second time today Downset's come up, and it's never come up until I was picking up my kids.
I couldn't believe that song when it like blew my mind. I was like, this guy's like, I was like, surely you must be kidding.
You could feel the frowns on the bass player's face while he's playing it. Like, that's right, we're not having sex. It's like, when do you? It's like primal. Like, when are you guys going to?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
They all have since recording that song. Guarantee you. They're not hanging
that song 30 years ago. Sex kills. Sex kills. Sex kills is your point of view? Like, what are you talking about?
That's
I remember the listening. Sex kills?
Well, like punk, you know, like Minor Threat, right?
Yeah,
Don't fuck is part of like being straight edge. That's why punk's awesome, because it gives you like an escape hatch. It's like the real red pill, like the real like Matrix shit, where you're like able to like.
What a weird. How did that get lumped in? Like, is it pure? Is it puritanical? Is it like trying to be Buddhist, but it's puritanical?
Part of
it's trying to be like achieve a state of like monkhood, but it's like it's just like Calvinist.
I think there's something to that. I think there's like some sort of religious state, because Ian MacKaye is a super interesting person, and he's like people made him into a cult leader, and he's not. You know what I mean? Like, he said some bunch of things when he was 19, And then like 35 years later, people are like, it's my Jesus. And it's like, no, that was a song I wrote when I was 19. Because those were like, I was seeing self-destruction around me. And that was 19. This is my statement of beliefs at that exact age. And then it just, people carried it, like took it super seriously.
Yeah, God, thank God no one asked our opinion when we were 19 years old, and we recorded it. Could you imagine recording your worldview at 19 and people like bringing it through? That's
it's amazing. That guy still gets challenged about straight edge in his like late 50s. People are still coming up to him about something he wrote at 19. But that's the power. Like you say in the book, Dan, it's not a religion. It's not a cult. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But it is, right? Like we carry this shit our whole lives. Like when I broke straight edge and started smoking weed, certain of my friends wouldn't talk to me. It was like leaving Scientology. Like there were certain people that were like, no, I'm not fucking with you anymore because you left it, right? And like Ian MacKaye, probably the same way, once again, to extend this the most extreme thing possible, like in the same way, I'm sure like Christ, the historical Christ figure, was probably like, no, don't like, I'm just a dude. Right. And then people turned it into something. Ian MacKaye in the same way, he's just a dude, but people have, we all have I don't know, maybe not all of us, but like a lot of us have this internalized Ian MacKaye that's telling us don't sell out, don't do X, Y, or Z, don't fuck. But it's great when you're a kid because you can't have sex anyway. And all of a sudden you can take a moral stance like, yeah, I don't want to fuck. Like, forget about
Yeah, that's true. Those guys weren't getting laid anyway. Nobody was getting laid in those days anyway. So, but to be like, yeah, I don't even want to fuck. It's like, okay.
I don't even.
No one's knocking your door down, dude.
I was in a band in high school, and the singer was like that. He's like, yeah, I'm just keeping it, and like, but he was intense. I was like, you could just do it too, like, because that's what I was trying to do. Like, I was like closet smoking weed and not straight edge in a band that like we decided we wouldn't be present as straight edge because the guitarist and the singer were straight edge and the drummer, we had rotating drummers, so we didn't care as long as you could play. But I was like, look, I'm not straight edge, but I'm not gonna like, let's not make a big deal of it. Because I'm like, when I was at any hardcore event, you would think I was, because I didn't like, I wasn't like, yeah, man, I'm gonna smoke weed in front of you. I'm like, these are the last people I'm smoking weed in front of. Like my friends, like I'm from a town full of like hippies and shit. So it was like, I wanted to have friends, even though I hated their music. I'm like, well, I needed to hang out with people, and that's what we did.
I'm going to challenge you on that. You're not from a town of just hippies. You're from a town of hardcore legends, Albany, right?
Yeah,
Albany, New York.
Albany's got some great stuff. I mean, the guy I was in a band with, this guy Mike Scoble, they were in One King Down, and that's a Troy band, but they're phenomenal. Like I sort of missed them in their heyday. I listened to some of the stuff, but the pandemic, I got really back into hardcore, and I hadn't listened in a long time. I listened to punk, but like hardcore, I remember the moment there's two moments. One, at an Earth Crisis show, I got punched in the face by some kid who just ran up to me and punched me in the face right when I walked in. And I was like, and he was like, and there was like this tiny fist too. So it wasn't like I like got knocked out. It was like, but he flew a punch in, and I like chased him into a bathroom, and I like I don't remember what happened, but it was just like, what are you gonna do? I'm like, what'd you just fucking punch me in the face for? And I left the show. And I remember being like, this is so violent and no one's doing anything about it. And I thought the violence of the show was just like beyond like reason, like of anything I've ever seen. And then I've told you this story, Eric, before, when I was watching a friend of this guy, and he was in a band, and they were called Hanson, just like the band, like Hanson, Bop Hanson. And it was right before Bop dropped, and I saw a commercial for Bop, and it was before Bop blew up. And I was like, get Hanson, they got a new song. And I told the guy from Hardcore Hanson, I'm like, dude, there's a new band called Hanson coming out. They got a song. It was like,
was he pissed?
Like, dude, he was like, no, there's not. And he like just denied. It was like denialism. Like, you're a hater. I'm like, there's a band called Hanson. Like, right. I think it's gonna be a thing, because the song, it's like a bubblegum pop song, and they're like promoting the shit out of it. Like, remember flipping through channels? That's how I found out about the brothers Hanson. But at the show itself, that same singer band sucked, and the guy kept preaching between every song, and he kept saying, outside these walls people don't understand what's going on. And I remember I peeked out, it was like a matinee hardcore show, and I peeked out the window, and it was like a beautiful upstate New York spring day, and like young people were laughing and playing, and I'm like, outside the walls is better than here. Like, you're like the fucking you're just like this rotten bitter guy, like mad at the world, and like out there it's like, hey, let's fall in love. Like, people were like falling in love. It was such a beautiful day.
Dude, what about the guy from Color Me Bad? They're like singing and dancing. The one big fat guy just comes out and he like pushes the guy off the stage. That's insane.
I think the one guy was like, hey, you can't sing that part anymore. You're not hitting it. And so the guy sang the other guy's part. That's my story I made up in my head. And he's like, how dare you?
But like, this is something that happens in hardcore and punk all the time, right? Like, people like will come to shows and punch someone from a band in the face because they talk shit to fanzine, or
oh my god,
you know, it's like, it's the shit that like is normalized in punk and hardcore is so fucking weird. I remember they were opening for us in London, and he took a beer crate, and it's like a huge heavy beer crate, and just throws the beer crate into the crowd and just busts this kid's face wide open.
Geez.
And it's just like, holy fuck, that's just the
whole beer crate.
There's no beer in it, but it's like one of those big fucking heavy ass beer crates. I mean, I'll bleep his name. Maybe there's some shit about that still. But it's fucking crazy. Like, this is just normal at hardcore shows to see someone do this kind of act of violence. But at a Color Me Bad show, someone gets pushed off the stage. It's like front page news.
Yeah. That's, I mean, Color Me Bad. I want to look that up. Color Me Bad fight. It blew my mind. What the hell was that?
Well, you know, that guy's going to get some blood.
It was in upstate New York. You know, it was in upstate New York.
Oh, it was. A lot happens in upstate New York.
That's that Earth Crisis energy.
I'm on Syracuse.com/entertainment right now.
It was in the Earth Crisis capital of.
It was in where Earth Crisis.
Maybe he was feeling the energy of the Syracuse.
You probably know about this, Danny, and you probably might know about this too, Eric. But are you familiar with the yogurt bombings that would happen at Earth Crisis shows?
People bomb them with yogurt?
Yeah,
no,
because they were vegan. There were multiple shows that people would bomb them with yogurt as a fuck you, and it was predominantly other vegans that would go to the store, buy yogurt, and bomb Earth Crisis because they were like not talking about veganism in the way then the way that these people felt that you should talk about veganism in like a way that was pro-choice, or that was like
it's like religious fundamentalism. It's like different sects of like a religious
100%.
fundamentalism. It's like schisms.
And so I know of 2 yogurt bombing incidences. One happened in Middlesex College in New Jersey, and it was thrown by the lead singer of Ink and Dagger, and beside him was Eric Wareheim, who at the time was playing bass in Ink and Dagger. And then there was another yogurt bombing that happened in Olympia, Washington, and it was some guy who was a vegan dude from a hardcore band, and beside him was Ben Gibbard. So there's a greatness in proximity to these yogurt bombings in both cases.
Whoa, I can't imagine.
Do you remember Soy Bomb?
Yeah. Who's that playing?
At the Bob Dylan show. He passed Soy Bomb. I looked him up one time, and
no way.
R.I.P. Yeah, he confused the hell out of Bob Dylan. It's actually a really great piece because you think Bob Dylan was like being conceptual for a minute, and like Soy Bomb's dancing around, and then you realize Bob Dylan just like, hey man, I got a new song. He just like tunes out.
What was Soy Bomb all about? What was his?
He was a performance artist. He's like, shit, Bob Dylan's here. Check out these dance moves. And he was just like, I don't think he was all about a lot. He was like, I'm a mystery. And he was like left it that way. He was like he was like pre-viral. He was like before like internet viral. There was just like Entertainment Tonight viral, because you're like, Bob Dylan blew a gasket. He was like, huh? What? And he just like spaced out. Soy Bomb did his thing.
And then Jarvis Cocker
Soy
did that
Bomb is mysterious.
What's that?
Oh, that's sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and then like, didn't like Jarvis Cocker do it to Michael Jackson? Remember that, where he like danced behind Michael Jackson, during a Michael Jackson show and got thrown out of the award show?
I don't know. I don't
I don't
remember
know.
that.
That was
I don't like that.
definitely. It was like post Soy Bomb, kind of Jarvis Cocker. I
That's
guess
sort of like the Mentos commercial where the kid, he wants to get into the rock show and he sneaks in as a crew member and then he comes out. Oh, that's a Foo Fighters video doing a Mentos commercial.
But I think there was also a Mentos commercial like that too at some point.
Probably. That's like the Mentos way. Like if you want something, you grab a Mentos and then disguise yourself and get in on the action directly. What are you watching, Eric?
Soy Bomb is still alive.
Oh,
this just in.
The plot thickens.
I mean, I'm all over the place.
That's a dream I had. It must have been a dream I had. I was like, a Soy Bomb alive? Like, no, he passed, but he's still. Soy Bomb's alive.
Dude, Soy Bomb's alive and well.
Great.
Michael Portnoy.
And it would seem like Michael Portnoy is an artist in kind of like the mold that both of you kind of write about in the book a little bit, like pranks. You know, he's pulling a prank.
Yeah, I guess I was influenced by
Soy. I think so. Portnoy explained the poem's meaning. Soy represents dense nutritional life. Bomb is obviously an explosive, destructive force. So Soy Bomb is what I think art should be. Dense, transformational, explosive life.
That's right. Yeah, maybe
I thought it was like political, but I thought it was political, but I think he's just like rocking out. He was like, "This is my chance to rock out."
Yeah.
Bob Dylan was like, "Huh?"
And soy is a dense nutritional value, and that's where he got it from. Okay.
I don't know. It was some weird, benevolent.
Not every art has to have a statement, right? Like it just be about expression.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen that Research Pranks video ever that Research did way back when?
What's that?
It's like sort of a history of art pranks and punk art pranks, I guess. Like Joe Coleman's in it.
And I think I've seen that. Someone showed me that.
It's amazing. It's fantastic how there's this kind of tradition within punk of like large scale pranks. You know, Frank Discussion from the Feeders is in it. Talks about digging up the animal graveyard before they played the Gilman when he came out with all the dead animals all over himself and live cockroaches glued to his head and things like it. There is this sort of like part of punk, like you're talking about earlier, Eric, with the sense of humor, but there's also this sort of like fucking with society, and that goes right back to the beginning.
Yeah,
we got to do a Soy Bomb sequel.
Yeah, we could do the Soy Bomb sequel at the F1 races. You should put a Soy Bomb 2 shirt.
I think
and then jump in front of the cars.
Yeah. Yeah. I think maybe it's tofu IED.
Tofu IED. What's this thing called? Tofu drone. Tofu drone.
Yeah, there we go.
It's like dense nutritional value in an ordnance system. Drone, modern. Bombs are old school. Drones. Tofu drone. We could do a drone with tofu and like have tofu on it.
When's Jeff Bezos gonna drop that dick pic? That's all I want to know.
Yeah.
Let's see what you're working with, Jeff. If I had his money, do you think he got like dick implants? Because he has so much money. Do you think he gets weird experimental surgeries and shit?
What do you do with?
Have you heard the Elon Musk thing? That Elon Musk has a vibrator in his dick?
What?
If you have that much money and you must be psychotic. It must make you psychotic, and it like why wouldn't you just get robot parts put in all your body parts? Like, right? You got to be like, what else can I buy? Right? It's got to make you delusional.
Because we all know as human beings that we die, and these guys know it too. And they're like, shit, no matter what happens, no matter how many millions of dollars they have coming in a day, they're going to die. So they're like, how do I think a lot of them are trying to stave death. So yeah, they're into it. Like, but putting a
Well,
true vibrator in the dick? I wouldn't do that.
Allegedly, it's from but my friend Brace from a TrueAnon podcast talked all about it on the podcast. So it's not my information I'm bringing to light here for the first time, but allegedly,
I don't think all the money in the world I want to start chopping up my ding dong. That's like I don't know. That's tough. I think like
they can make it better. They have the technology.
well, my doctor said this. My doctor goes, the only reason we die is because our cells are programmed to die. But if they start making artificial cells that replace the cells we're born with, or the cells that our body makes, then we could live forever and explore space. And I was like, shit, dude, you talking some Star Trek shit, player.
You go to a rich person's doctor now. That's why he's telling you this shit.
I honestly go to the DMV of doctor's offices. It's like it was like the doctor that I got when I first moved to LA and I was like flat broke. And it's like it's the only doctor that comes with, I like booked a commercial and I got my SAG after card. So it's like the one doctor that's completely free.
Yeah,
and I just like him and I just stayed with him forever.
But
it's like not I'm not at the bougie doctor.
Well, because I think believe. I think that's the thing. What happens when you have so much money, right? Like you just have nothing. You have enough money where you probably wake up every day. Well, I'm talking like Elon Musk money, and you're like, I could go out and I could improve a whole city of people's lives. I could make everyone's life fucking.
I could clean Flint, Michigan water, or get a vibrator in my dick,
I started meditating a couple of years ago, and I realized it was because the anxiety of not being able to fix all this shit that's happening in the world was making me crazy. So then it became like, well, I can fix myself. And I think that's why meditation becomes, so essential. I got so many friends that are into meditation but once they achieve a certain level of success, because you want to fix the world, but you can't. And at the same time, you can fix yourself. So I think it becomes a lot more about looking inward at a certain point.
I think you can fix yourself and you can fix your corner of the world and get into local politics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
what I take naps almost if I can. Those are the best 15 minutes I meditate in the morning, but in the afternoon, if I could do it, I will take 15 minutes. I'll pull over in a car, nap. It's the best. And then I took one before I got on here.
How do you do that?
I don't know. I mean, I wake up early. I got kids, dog, all this stuff. So like if I'm waking up at 6 a.m., 5:45, around 2, I need to just decompress, and then I can finish the rest of the day. It's awesome.
I don't know. I wake up sick when I nap. I feel always sick to my stomach.
Nah, I feel great. I feel like I got another 5 hours left.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I wish I could. It definitely seems like
naps help with Alzheimer's.
Oh, do they?
Nappers, lower risk of Alzheimer's. Yeah. Think about like animals, man. They nap. Like our human bodies are not made for like technological late capitalist society. They're made for like hunting and gathering. So we would like hunt, we gather, we eat a big brunch, late breakfast, early lunch, let's say, take a big ass nap with the water buffalo in the background and shit. And then we wake up and hunt some more and eat dinner.
I get more done with a nap. I do. I mean, I think the late capitalist.
It's hard to get to sleep. It's hard to get to sleep at night though when you took too dank of a nap. Then I'm up till 3 a.m.
Oh, really? No, I could get. I don't know.
Knock out?
Me? With magnesium.
Do you have problems sleeping, or you fucking hit the pillows and you're out like a goddamn light switch?
I wake up every day 4 hours in. I wake up every day at 2 a.m. That sucks.
And you get back to sleep?
Yeah, but I hate it. I had a couple last night. I had a full, and that's rare. That's like only every 5 nights I have like a full. I get through the whole night, and it's awesome. But I always wake up.
Can't help it. Before you go to bed or anything?
No, I'm trying to dream. That's why I'm not smoking weed. So I like having dreams, and I'm developing a dream interpretation podcast. So I just want to like get back into the zone because I wasn't having them with weed consumption.
I'm gonna start doing steroids and get all Dwayne the Rock Johnson out.
Yes.
You gotta.
Carrot
You saying
top.
you think he's on steroids? You think?
No, I think that's natural. He's 59 years old and he has the body of fucking Ulysses.
And it's not steroids anymore. I think in the WWE at this point, it's like next generation HGH and all sorts of amazing technologies that people are using.
Oh yeah, he's a pincushion. He's got crazy gizmos and gadgets.
Oh, is it worth it? Doesn't it mess you up later? Doesn't your balls turn into raisins and stuff?
I don't know if it's old school 80s steroids. I think it's probably like whatever the designer drug version of growth hormone is. He's very rich and that's his thing, and
His body mod hobby. Yeah,
that's his body mod hobby. And with his age comes less muscles and testosterone and a slower metabolism. So you got to keep it up to keep Hollywood pumping.
A lot of those guys are going.
I really don't know. I've never read a single article about Dwayne the Rock Johnson's vitamin regimen. I'm just like riffing.
A lot of the guys are going to South America to get HGH, human growth hormone. Like I know Rey Mysterio got stem cells in his knee to get his knee back, and now he's back wrestling it. Like fuck, how old is he? And his knees were shot, but he's able.
Well, I think if you're like healing your like broken body, that's kind of cool. But if you're just like I'm getting ripped, that might not be good. It's like hella dangerous. I think that shit.
Well, like wrestling's like a Faustian deal too, where like everything you do shortens your lifespan, shortens your career. They say like the average bump in a ring is like a minor car crash, and that's how many times they do that, right?
Yeah, I just did Chris Jericho's podcast earlier today, and they tear their bodies up. He told me he did like a ladder match, and he got thrown out of the ring onto a ladder, and it like broke his coccyx. And he's like, and I got through the rest of the match, based like just on adrenaline. But he's like, that was the worst pain I've ever dealt with, and they can't do anything. They can't put a cast on it, so you just have to like be in agony with like broken tailbone.
Where's that? Like on his butt?
It's the very end of your tailbone.
Oh dang!
He told me one time that he wrestled this thing and broke his arm. Right, like did a moonsault in practice and broke his arm. Went to the doctor, got a bunch of painkillers, had them set it. Goes back and does a match, and then pulls a blade job, but he's on all these crazy painkillers, so his blood is just water. And it's just, you can see the match on YouTube. It's everyone, the referee's covered in his blood. Like everyone's covered in his blood.
There's one wrestler back in the 80s, he had hepatitis and he would like hit people in the head with a fork and he like bleed all over him and he gave a bunch of wrestlers hepatitis.
Abdul the Butcher.
Yeah.
Abdul the Butcher.
Yeah, he gave the wrestlers hepatitis.
It's a real thing in wrestling, like deathmatch wrestling, especially where there's always blood. A lot of these guys don't get tested. In Japan, especially, there's no testing for a lot of these guys, and so it happens. It's like it's crazy too. Like deathmatch wrestling is, like I want to talk to you about this because like there's a type of comedy and a type of like art broadly termed that wrestling falls under, especially deathmatch wrestling, where it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt potentially you. It might hurt the person that isn't other people involved in the situation. And there's like a real cost to it. And you definitely see that with wrestling, right? Where like, there's like so much risk and there's very little reward, and especially in the beginning, there's very little reward, I imagine, doing this sort of comedy too, or aggressive type of comedy, a new type of comedy. But there is like real cost to it.
That's insane. These guys are insane. Ric Flair would take little razors and like slice his face up before matches. So when people would punch him, his face would like explode into like a blood geyser.
What about Steve-O and all the shit Steve-O did? Even before there was money involved, or Danger Aaron when he was just doing it for fun, right? Like it's crazy.
There's old wrestlers that would like eat glass bottle for matches and shit.
Still happens. Guys eat light bulbs, like fluorescent light bulb tubes.
Yeah. Terry Funk would like do those like barbed wire matches on ECW.
Did you ever meet
barbed wire?
Did you ever meet that kid Darby Allin, he does stuff with like the Jackass guys a little bit? He's a current wrestler.
Darby Allin, maybe sounds familiar.
He paints half his face like a skull. Him up. He named himself after Darby Crash and Gigi Allen.
GG.
And his main influence is Jackass on what he does. So he does unbelievable.
Darby Allin. Crazy. Oh yeah, he looks like Baron Samedi. He looks cool. Looks like Machine Gun Kelly kind of.
Yeah, he's straight edge, but like the shit he does to himself, like it's fucking.
He's insane. Full edge. Doesn't have sex.
No, he has
no
sex. He has sex. I think the no sex thing is a very extreme stance to take, even in the straight edge community.
No sex, and what does he have? Does he drink caffeine?
I don't know. Actually, that's a good question. I think it's more like mind-altering drugs. So I guess caffeine does alter your mind a little bit.
Caffeine's a mind-altering drug.
I want to bring weed into it. I'm like, weed's natural. Why can't I be straight edge and just smoke weed? I was straight edge when I was taking anti-anxiety pills. But
I mean, the majority of drugs are natural, right?
No, not the majority of drugs. Psilocybin, weed, things that grow up from the ground are naturally, but
ayahuasca, coffee, tea, mushrooms, bufo, various toad venom.
But there's 8,000 other drugs that are synthesized that they just make. They're like, hey, let's make it.
Yeah.
So most drugs are like that are available.
Yeah, but they're getting this. They're synthesizing them based off
nature.
It needs to be just from plants. Yeah,
but it feels different.
Chamomile, catnip. It's not really different. Amanita muscaria.
But like acid feels different than mushrooms. It's got that chemical.
Yeah, but acid
crunch.
is from a bread mold. Acid is ergot bread mold. It's from bread. It's a mold from bread.
That's how they isolated it.
It's just isolated. Yeah. So a lot of drugs that are chemicals are based on something from nature that they just like extracted like mescalines from peyote, acids from ergot mold, benzodiazepines. Xanax works exactly the same way as alcohol, which is fermented fruit juice or barley or grains.
I think it's like a drug though that you can just pull from the earth. Like ayahuasca, I think you have to do a process, right? There's an extraction process. DMT, certainly there's extraction processes.
Well, DMT is the active ingredient in ayahuasca and bufo various toad venom. Toad venom is just the venom of the toad's legs, and ayahuasca is a root. It's like a tea. It's like a tea that they make. It's like a root and leaves, and they put it in water, and they just kind of like brew a batch. It's like a stew. So it's not that much of a process. It's just like a soup.
You smoke that toad venom though, right?
Smoke the toad venom.
But you've smoked it, right?
I have, yeah.
Have you done DMT? Is it the same as DMT? Does it feel the same, or is it?
I've hit a DMT vape pen at our last couple of Eric Andre show rap parties. We were hitting it, right?
Yeah, season 5.
I think I hit it with you. But I never like ripped it because it tasted like melted plastic toys.
Yeah,
tires. It was gross. Yeah, but the
tasted like the water in a super soaker.
Yeah, totally. Worse. It tasted like I was smoking weed out of a Dasani bottle. But the toad venom got like I've never been more high in my entire life.
And how long does it last? Is it like just as short as DMT, or is it more like ayahuasca?
10 minutes. 10 minutes.
That's what I loved about DMT.
Ayahuasca only lasted like 4 hours for me. I wasn't taking heroic doses, but.
Did you vomit?
I didn't vomit. No. I had other purges, but not a vomit.
You shit your pants?
I didn't shit my pants. I politely walked to the toilet, to the bathroom, and defecated.
That's my fear. So I'm just going to be in a room.
Classic move.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. It wasn't. I didn't do some heroic dose where I'm like, blah, 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 just like shitting and vomiting out of both ends. I did enough dose to make it count, but I wasn't. But the toad venom, you're like completely absent from this reality. It's like being like under anesthesia.
Well, now that we're talking about drugs, I got to ask you, what was it like working at Matador as an intern?
It was the greatest. It was the greatest internship. I'm so grateful that they hired me. It eased my transition from college in Boston into New York. It really was influential in shaping my decision to not pursue music and get into comedy, because I realized the music I wanted to make was so experimental and unmarketable that I was like, I'm going to live the life of a pauper if I go down this path. But I thoroughly enjoyed everybody I worked with. It was a great, nurturing work environment, and I made friends there. I have a friend there that I still talk with. It was just like a dream. It's a great place for a 21-year-old.
It's cool who came through that internship program, like yourself, Ezra from Vampire Weekend, Michael.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Michael, who did Mishka Clothing, was also an intern there too.
No way.
Yeah, like I my relationship with them ended not so great, but it was such a cool place to be. Like, I really did feel like.
Did you work there?
No, my band was signed to Matador for 7 years, I guess.
Oh.
I think just after you had left, but you worked with Miwa, right?
Yeah, Miwa. Alex was the one that hired me. I ran into Miwa. I should text her.
She's the best. She's she's the best.
Person.
Awesome person.
Sonia was my main boss. Lisa. Wow, I'm shocked I remember all these names. It's kind of like, can you name all your teachers from kindergarten to 12th grade?
Yes.
Probably.
Go in order.
Mrs. Curban, Sister Stephen, Miss Normile. My mother, Mary Curry, was my third grade teacher.
No way, your mom was your teacher?
What? Yeah. That's not fair.
That's cool.
That's dark. Yeah, I didn't talk about it.
Dark?
No, because it was because
I don't know if it's dark.
Because kids when she it wasn't dark. It was like when she moved to 7th grade after my 3rd grade year, and then like near-do-well 7th graders, when they were mad at my mom, would like seek me out and take it out.
Oh no!
And I wasn't a narc, so I just kept it to myself, and then that led to anxiety. But after high school, like, it was also Catholic school, which was not great. But anyway, back to it. Miss Sargent, Sister Presentation, Sister Jean Marie. Then after that, it was public school, and I had like tons of teachers. So that like homeroom teachers, I don't know. Miss Matteo.
No, you don't have to. No. It's more about like kindergarten through
K through 6. I had the one teacher, and then boom, then it was we were out. We were doing our own thing.
I have to leave.
All right.
I have to wrap up. I'm sorry, guys.
No, I appreciate it. Dan, do you want to talk a little bit more? Because we can talk about One King Dan. We have not talked Bloodshed Revenge yet at all.
Oh, Bloodlust Revenge.
Bloodlust Revenge.
That's their finest moment, because they have the guy, the singer, who I guess that was volatile. I don't know anything about why they broke up, but that singer worked the best with One King Dan. I think, because I listened to other stuff. I like the music, but I'm like, I'm not feeling the intensity like I did with the other guy. And I forgot his name.
Well, Eric, thanks for coming on the show. Anytime you want to come back and talk about Matador and whatever, you're always welcome.
I got to tell you about this guy in the Bad Brains.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I want. We got to talk about attitude.
That's in the book.
You got to go.
Yeah.
Ciao,
Bye, Eric. Bye, Eric.
Bye, guys. Bye.
I was gonna say, because Eric answered this question before, what got me into punk rock? Interestingly enough, close enough with the Dead Milkmen, but it wasn't the Dead. Someone introduced me to the Dead Milkmen, and I thought they were fun. But the skate video, "Streets of Fire," the Power Polosa video from 1989, I was a lousy. I barely skateboarded. I wasn't good. Like my friends skateboarded, and I loved the culture and magazines. But like I'm just like I'm too cautious for a skateboard. Like I just hurt myself all the time every time I did it. But that video with all the SST albums, not all the SST music that I guess they got free license to. That was a point when Sonic Youth was on it, but it was like Sonic Youth, Black Flag, Minutemen, Fire Hose, but Minutemen you could see that's probably my favorite punk band. That was the band that like philosophically shaped me in like 8th, 9th grade, like more than any other punk band. And they reminded me of me is why. I'm like, if I was in a band, this would be like that's the band I wanted to form, but there was no one who wanted to form a punk band, so hardcore was just what was around.
Yeah, like I don't want to put anything on you if this is not true, but I'm a kid who had to shop in the Husky section.
Uh-huh.
As a kid growing up, I've always been like a bigger kid, a bigger dude, like
Uh-huh.
bigger adult now. But because of that, skateboarding same way for me. I was like, I love skateboarding. I would hang around, I'd try it, I could get on there, but I couldn't do it in the way that other kids did. And by the same token, when I saw Mike Watt and D Boone, and I'm like, oh, big dude's fucking doing it. I
Yeah.
loved it. And Ball Hog Tugboat got me into everything. That Mike Watt solo record that came out like 19.
Yeah, 95, I remember. I was a huge Fire Hose fan at the time too. So like I came in and I remember the song, the big song that got me was actually a Fire Hose song, Brave Captains, first song on Raging Full On. And that song I probably played in my head, played more than any other song in the world. I just stone cold forgot about that. I just did a friend's podcast where he asked me to pick 3 songs. My friend Chris, and I picked an Aretha Franklin song, a song by a girl group from a one-hit wonder from Spain called Las Grecas, and the third one I was like, what's my punk choice? And I chose actually Filler by Minor Threat, because that encapsulates, like, because that song and like the whole Ian MacKaye experience. And I'm not a cult member. He's not my cargo cult leader, but I admire his integrity. I admire the fact that I could go to DC and I went to his label and I found pictures of myself from 1993 at a Fugazi show. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, I was at this show, and like they had stuff,
Yeah.
like literal. I'm like, you guys take, and because I'm like kind of disorganized, so I'm like, the records, just for the sheer records that he's kept of his art legacy is like so impressive to me.
I look at Ian MacKaye and he's not like I'm the same way. Like to me, it's a polytheistic religion, punk and
Yes.
hardcore in that too, right? Like, and he's one of the gods,
Right.
certainly. And I think to me, I'm looking at him more. If you look at Ian MacKaye as being like a Warhol-esque artist who
Right.
runs this thing that produces culture, produces art, and the whole way through, he knew what he was doing had value. And that's like, as a young person, to be like, shit, I'm going to save this random scrap of paper because years from now, this is going to mean something, or I'm going to keep all these photos because this is important. What I'm doing matters. And I think that there's something so admirable and I'm definitely jealous of as a person who's constantly kind of questioning what I produce in a way.
Sure. I same time I discovered punk, I made a comic strip, and it was called Captain Bob. It was like this. I made fun of the concept of comic strips and comics and all this shit, and I loved it in 7th grade. And then in 9th grade, I don't know what it was. I go, this shit sucks, and I just ripped it, like volumes of this thing. And then 3 years later, I understood that being in 7th grade wasn't a crime in of itself. I was like, why didn't I keep the thing that was this time capsule of like who I was at the age of 13? Because 15-year-old me suddenly had this shame spiral about it not being good enough. And I'm like, what am I thinking? You know, like it's not even like I have to go make something and sell it. It's just that I no longer have this like reference point to a time that I was giving myself because of shame or fear of being, of something sucking. And like Erica and I came up in comedy, and like you have to just kind of get over it. You have to just be like, you know what, like. So this is so Instagram. I don't even know who said it, but if someone's like, every artist has to have a bad period. I'm like, hell yeah, man. Like they don't have to. You know what I mean? You don't, but it's like having a bad period. It's fine.
Well, and then you realize, like, when you look at these scenes and the bands that actually wind up getting hugely fucking popular from these scenes, it's the band that all the cool kids hated. Like
Right.
Blink 182. All the cool people in San Diego thought they sucked. Like that's,
Right.
and they'll even admit that. Or like Nirvana, like talking to Doug Marsh from Built to Spill, or Nate from Foo Fighters, who was in like Brotherhood back then. Like all the kids that were like hardcore kids, they were like, "Oh, that band just sounds like Led Zeppelin. They suck," and like paid them no mind. Yet these are the bands that wind up becoming huge because maybe the cool kids don't have all the answers, and maybe we shouldn't worry about what the cool kids think.
Yeah. Yeah, and Cool Kids also is a cult of who, depending on what cool you have, and like what, and I don't know what, because even like I've been thinking about it a lot lately, because I'm like, I got into this thing, punk rock, and I never made a lot of it. I just was inspired by it, and I was a listener, and I was interesting, and my parents were Catholic, religious, and I full rejected religion from a very early age. Like I paid lip service for the sake of peace in the house, but I never, because I have like people who ask me about it. They're like, "How come you don't ever go to church?" And I'm like, because when I was 18, I didn't legally feel I needed to, and I just stopped doing it because it was a thing I did to make my parents not flip out about it. And with punk rock, that became, it took me years to realize this, but that was my religion. That was the thing that took me in. And initially I was very like, punk rock was also, I learned about politics that way. I was like, well, I didn't know why Ronald Reagan sucked when I was 12. 13 I understood, because I was like, you know what I mean? I was like, aren't they all just old boring men? You know what I mean? Like that's how I looked at anybody in politician as it was presented to me in like a news format. And then I was like, oh, there are bigger things at stake in my country, like learning just, not patriotism is branding. Anyway, you know what I mean? You're Canadian though.
But we have it up here. We're
Yeah. No, I'm just saying I like Canadians because you see Beckles kind of, I worked with him on a few things, and I kind of saw that kind of reaction to America, which is like when I was younger, I used to watch SCTV like way better than Saturday Night Live, because I was like, oh, you're making fun of America in a non like nostalgic way. You're just sort of like, oh, those are the people to the South doing ding dong things. And I'm like, yes, that's us. You have us better than we don't have self-awareness in this country. I guess we do. I don't know. It's a lot of choices here in America, but
it's so, I think, from Canada, because like you're defined by being not American and not, I'm saying this as like a settler white person, but like, you define yourself as like, I'm not American and I'm not British. My parents left England. My dad left England and my grandparents left Scotland on my mom's side because they didn't want to be there, kind of rejected that culture in a way almost, and like came to Canada. So like, what is Canadian? Like, it's like kind of England, kind of American, but you got to not be either. So you have to like constantly be like, I guess that's a critical thing. Like, that's why I think there's so much great Kids in the Hall, or Nathan Fielder, or like all these sorts of like interesting comedians come out of Canada, because they can play American, but they have this weird view of American society. But we also love it. Like, we can't, like, you don't fucking achieve shit in Canada until you achieve anything in America. The Tragically Hip are Bruce Springsteen. They're ginormous, but they would go to America and they play like to 400 people, all Canadians or friends of Canadians that would be going to see them in the US. And so it never felt like they were a big, huge band in the way that Drake feels like. Oh, Drake is fucking enormous. He's
Drake
worldwide.
transcends it.
Americans like him. That's got to make him cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, being from upstate New York, I used to watch Degrassi Junior High, and I didn't pick up that they were Canadian. Because I was like, they're just like, it looks like where I'm from.
Yeah.
But I'm like, something's off. And like, I was always like, something's off. And you know what it was? It was chickenism, just like our like 80s. Like, the flag was like Reagan 80s was like, that was fetishized. And like, and I guess like and that's my early stages. So I just was used to this like ultra patriotism, like take down the Soviet Union. We're going to win at the Olympics. Here's some McDonald's cards. I remember 1984, they gave McDonald's was giving out. It's funny. I used to eat McDonald's when I was a kid. I touched it, but it's like these scratch off cards for the Olympics. And then the Soviet Union boycotted. And then we ended up getting like McDonald's lost like billions of dollars because they were like expecting the Soviets to do something.
Yeah.
But it was like every American gold, you get a Big Mac. And it was like, I don't know why I just mentioned that out of the blue. Because I'm just thinking my American childhood was America at its peak, like 1984. It was a reverse 1984. But ever since that was the last year where kind of you could have that much of like a right-wing thing be so mainstream. And like punk rock was presented as this thing like, if you're on a subway and you see people with spiky hair, look out. Like punks became in the 80s what they couldn't, like, because they used to, they'd use minorities in the 70s in like action movies to be like, that's who you're after. They're like, we can't do that anymore. So now punks in the 80s, so even my early idea of what a punk was so off because it was fed to me from like these slicked out news programs that it's this horde of like nihilistic Sid Vicious's. And it wasn't until I heard like Minutemen and like the SST band, so I was like, oh no, it's this other thing that nobody that these idiots don't get.
Well, yeah, you look at the presentation on Chips or Quincy and those like infamous punk episodes that they did where like punks are rapists and murderers. And certainly there are terrible punk people, as we both know. But
yeah,
there's also this amazing culture that like empowers kids and tells you you can make art and you can do whatever you want and you can make your own reality. And all the kids at school that are cool are bullshit. And it's cool not to have sex. And it's cool not to be famous.
Whoa. I was with all of them. I play lip service to all of it except that one. Well, when I was younger, I was like, I'm not saving it. Like I'm like there was never a moment like maybe to my mom, I'm like, oh yeah, you know me. But I'm like, no.
But it's like societal rejection with a safety net that way. Like there's
right.
You can anything that you don't want to participate in society, it's like, well, that's fucking dorky anyway. I didn't want to be invited to the cool kid party because cool kid party fucking sucks. They don't play good records there that are, noisy or kids screaming or like, and later on, like, oh, my band didn't make it to the top of the music industry. Well, that's because I didn't want to, because that's a sellout thing. Success makes me a sellout. So I will run away from it, even though secretly I'd love to be able to make a shit ton of money and play stadiums and have people respond to my music like that.
Yeah, like success is like for people. I've seen it happen because coming up in stand up, I watched a lot of people become something, go from like Hannibal. I remember when he first came from New York. I don't think he had money. I mean, he probably had some money, but like I don't think he had a place to stay. He just was like a funny dude who came in from Chicago and made his way pretty quick. And he was incredible. Like he came and made a huge splash in the scene. And
but fucked up 12-hour show we did. And when we did a 12-hour show for the release of our second record, our friend was like, hey, my buddy in New York does stand up and he wants to come and do a set. And then it was, the guy was hilarious.
No shit. Yeah, he was just he had a belief in himself too that was right. You know what I mean? But he didn't doubt himself at all. Like, and he would just ask and do whatever show. And like I learned not the hard way, but like even stand up is like each room is different. And now it's so bubbled off. Like, I don't know, like I'm doing stand up again because my kids can wipe their ass. They're old enough. And so it's like a huge, are you out of the weeds with that yet?
I am, but because like the life of being in a touring band, like that's still my main gig.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I have to go out for work. So now going to a concert fills me with unbelievable anxiety. It's like I'm at a job and I'm like ready to get up and play even when I'm not playing. Um,
Right.
it's better when friends are playing and I can kind of just go chill with them and then I'll kind of deal with it. But if I just go to watch a show, my wife hates it. She's like, "You've ruined concerts for me because I can't go to a fucking concert with you because you sit there just anxious the whole time."
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why.
I know I get older, and I know that I'm always glad the show's over.
Yeah.
You know, like I just have gotten. I'm like, I like how shows like end. Like my friend, I have this buddy Vince Averill. It's Eric's buddy too. This guy Vince Averill, and he's in a band called Cross Control, a hardcore band. But he's
You act
stand up.
like I don't know who Vince is.
Oh, you know Vince,
wrestling podcaster extraordinaire.
Oh yeah.
A friend of my mutual friend, or married to Georgia, who's been on the podcast as well.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And also did an incredible hardcore label back in the day and put out the Automatic 7-inch from Louisville.
Yeah, that's a famous thing. Yeah, I met him. I remember I had a room that I wanted to stop doing because I was like I couldn't trust who was going on, and then Vince came on and he was great, and then I became friends with Vince after that, and then we found the hardcore connection, and we're like, oh, okay, like that's why we're like this, because he was like really into it, but we like the same, like that's a very distinct New York hardcore and like what was happening at the very exact time. It's like for example, like I don't know if you know the brand Breakdown from Yonkers, like that demo tape. Of all live performances I've ever seen in anything in my life, I put
Thompson Square Park.
No, I didn't see him at Thompson Square Park. I was upstate. They came upstate and played the South Troy Community Center. I was 15 years old or 16, and I'll tell you, that was my favorite show I've ever seen. Rock and roll, any genre, the whole bag of rock and roll of anything beyond punk, beyond hardcore. It was the greatest show I ever saw. I've been chasing that experience ever since. But I forgot the point of Vince. Vince and I go to he's friends with Arthur from Gorilla Biscuits. So whenever there's like that package tour, they go around. But what's nice kind of about like some of the bigger older bands, they'll still put a bunch of new stuff on the show. Like I like going to shows where it's like, oh, this is a festival and there's like 7 bands I've never heard of. And I go, but it's like right when the Gorilla Biscuits are on, I'm almost ready to go. I'm like, thank God they only have an album and a half. And I'm like, and then we're like, that was great. Time to go.
Yeah.
I'm just tired.
Well,
go ahead.
Breakdown was my first hardcore band. Our first show was opening for Breakdown on the Breakdown reunion. And
oh, nice.
Like you're saying, Jeff Perlin, one of the greatest front people ever. Like,
yeah.
Breakdown live in Thompson Square Park. That video is probably my favorite piece of cinema ever made. And, it's my favorite documentary.
It's so funny that you mentioned that, because now I know what you're talking about. Because I wasn't at live at Thompson Square Park, but I've seen that video, and is that like on YouTube?
Yes,
I have to watch that.
It's
because
amazing.
I the amount of times, I don't know how many hardcore shows I went to when I was younger, and how many times I tell people, I'm like, that Negative Land, like the performance art band from San Francisco, not band, but performance.
You saw Negative Land?
I saw Negative Land at the Wetlands in 99 or 2000, and that exploded my mind. That's the number one thing I've ever seen. It was the Christianity is Stupid tour.
Oh, that's awesome.
The name of a tour that I've had people want to punch me in the face for just saying. I've been like, oh, I saw my Christianity is Stupid tour. I remember this girl came, she was like, what did you just say? Like, I was like, at a party, I was like, I saw Negative Land at the Christianity is Stupid. So she was like, if someone ever said that to me, I'd punch him. And I'm like, that's not even Christian.
No.
Jesus would be like, you're stupid. He'd be like, okay, on to the next town.
That's what I'm saying. Jesus is
turn the
just
other
like
cheek.
Jesus is just like Ian MacKay when it comes to that violence.
Yeah,
I didn't want this shit.
I don't want this shit. He's not starting violence.
No.
Do it in my name. But yeah, but Vince and I go to these shows. And we are I was gonna say this earlier in the podcast. So there was the California Takeover show that came back out here in 2020, right before the pandemic, and it was Earth Crisis. Snapcase opened up, who I love, and the Buffalo Snapcase, and then from here, there's only one truth. There's only Strife.
Oh, from California, yeah, absolutely.
Strife from, but they had a very New York upstate. Their sound is very like steeped in like New Yorkness. I felt
they were fast. Like I think that was the other thing. Like at the time, everything was so groovy and slow.
Right.
And they were doing like kind of like, you know, that fast, like you're saying, New York, American hardcore.
Yeah.
Youth Crew Informed, kind of like the gallopy kind of thing. And like that's what I was a fan of all of them, obviously, but Strife I loved because they were fast.
But we went to that show, and then the pandemic was, I think, 2 weeks later. And if I didn't go to that show, and that show saved me, because then I was like stuck in my house with like kind of rediscovering Earth Crisis, because I had an Earth Crisis anger because I got punched in the face, and I was like, they don't even care that people are getting injured. And this is like 1995, but I remember being so like, I finally hit that violence, I don't like it point. But what I realized, I told Vince, I go, you know what's great about these shows? As an adult, I just sit in the back. When I was younger, I was like out, like in it, doing it, and it would give me, and I enjoyed it, but it also stressed me the hell out. And now, I never understood why people would go to the shows and stand in the back, and I'm like, now I do. I'm a guy who stands in the back, and I love it. And it's just because I don't have the aggression anymore, and I don't also, not in the face. That's my middle name.
No,
Dan, not in the face, Curry.
Well, I think that's the thing about punk and hardcore that's amazing is that, like, as much as there's these legacy acts and legacy tours and you never leave it, there's also this idea that eventually it's not yours. And there's like a new scene. And those kids are going to be the new bands, and they're going to interact with this culture differently. And it's going to be scary, and it's going to be weird for you. But that's the reality. In the same way it was scary and weird when we kind of took it over from the generation before.
Yes.
You know,
yeah, and it seems so quaint, but I realized I'm like, oh yeah, there was people doing this for 13, 14 years when I popped in, and it seemed that was like 30 years ago. So it's like it's been a minute.
And I think that's why it survives too, because it never gets bogged down by one generation. Like it's almost like you ascend to a certain status, you ascend to a certain age, and it's just like DIY. And what we're talking about is like what I think you were kind of talking about with Vince, a certain type of punk and hardcore where like it's deep, you know, it's DIY shows, it's Ebullition Records, it's Earth Crisis, it's like all these worlds interacting, right? But like at a certain point, that world just cuts you off from punk, and punk becomes this, it remains this kind of pure thing that's just, you know, for the kids that are in it.
Absolutely. That reminds me, when I met Eric, we were doing stand-up, and this is in the book, I believe. I wrote a chapter about our Golden Sunshine, who's our hair and makeup person, who like is that like, but we made a connection because of punk, but it made me remember like the true reason. Like now, I met Eric, and we both did stand-up, and we got along, and we philosophically agree, which is always a good thing, you know, on the state on God and government. Is like often like when I find people, if you're generally with me with God and government, we're good, and like that, you know, have a good attitude about it. But we used to do stand up, and then there was at not Arlene's Grocery, the Arlene's Grocery later on, but before that there was a place called the Continental in Astor Place in New York City, and they had punk rock metal karaoke. And one time we went with a bunch of comics, and I knew like 7 of them left immediately. And they had a live band, a karaoke list, a host, and then you would come up and do a punk song. And I went up, I'll never forget it, because I did Bullet by Misfits, and I never really thought of the lyrics until I was reading them.
Yeah.
And I was like, and it's been a minute. I was like, oh man, as I was like reading the lyrics, I was like, oh, this is like this Jackie O. Kennedy jacking off, sucking fuck. You know, it's like it's really raw and nasty. And Glenn Danzig's kind of a dick. I mean, I can't help but like him, but I'm also like, he's a bit much for me.
He's definitely not no sex. He's definitely not part of that vibe.
He's not a no sex guy.
No.
You know, Ian MacKaye used to rag on the Misfits too, like for being not genuine. And I'm like, oh, I love it. You know, like one time I went to Lodi to meet my sister just because that's where the Misfits were from. I was like, because it was like a kind of an equidistant point. I was like, Lodi, let's go there. That's where he's from. That's where the Misfits are from. And nobody cared. And like, there was nothing to it. We went to a Japanese restaurant. But what happened was we went to the punk rock metal karaoke. I did Bullet and everyone else left. And then Eric came up and did Attitude by Bad Brains. And I take that moment, core memory. I barely knew him. I was like, all right, this guy's good. Like, like both as a talent, because he freaking nailed it, you know, the performance, but also the taste. And I realized from a taste perspective, I can get with this guy, God and Government. And that's always what distinguished him from others. That's why Vince, I mentioned him too. Like, because it's like the only other guy I really knew person, not even guy, like, you know, stand-up's a lot of guys, but it's just like the only hardcore punk people were like Eric, who understood it, and Vince. And after that, everybody else was like, I like something more. I like Aerosmith or whatever. Like, oh, great.
Like if you're
Cool.
if you're from like a certain like socioeconomic background where like punk would have been something that was accessible to you, I don't trust you if you weren't into it. Like if you didn't find like, and I'm not saying you have to be into what I'm into. You can be in anything, like Promise Ring to like Bikini Kill to Fugazi, like anything.
Right.
But if you didn't look at the shit that was being given to you and be like, nah, there's got to be something else out there. I find it weird, you know, like hip hop too. If you were involved in hip hop, also that's something where like you also like, you know, actively were like making your own culture, creating your culture and involved in something. But like the kids that, like you're saying, just like liked Aerosmith, like Aerosmith's great, but like nothing to build your identity around.
Yeah, no, I know. I think, you know, and specifically where I'm from is pretty normcore. And then, you know, you got the Aerosmith, you know, and Nirvana broke when I was in high school. So everyone liked Pearl Jam, which was also boring. No, I'm not mad at Pearl Jam, but I'm just like, this is Pearl Jam's Pearl Jam.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first layer of counterculture was Grateful Dead. And that, to me, I was not into. I was like, this is not my subcult. And to me, now I realize much later, I've actually discussed it with some friends that I'm still friends with that understand punk and were into it and like would go to Fugazi shows with me. It's like at that time, I thought that choice, and I still do, was a soft choice. It was like what you're supposed to do as sort of a white person who doesn't want to play football anymore. You could just go, you could become a deadhead. And it wasn't, and to me, it was always a stutter step. And I remember how many deadheads then became born again Christians. And amongst deadheads, they were like, how could this be? And to me, I'm like, that's a lateral pass. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm like, it's like, I'm nice to this person now. I'm nice to him now because they're still into something I'm not into.
Yeah. 100%.
So yeah. I don't see the difference. So like, yeah, I get that, because it's like, if you weren't absorbing this and you weren't like understanding that you could do something beyond, and then like, and I also realized this about the Dead. I'm like, this is just boomers marketing you.
Yeah.
Like, it's another boomer marketing. Like, we already did it and it was already done perfectly. So let's keep selling you this same thing over and over.
And that to me is actually the religion and the cult, the Grateful Dead, because like what, like you're not making your own art. Like punk is great because like it's like, here's this religion, and then it's like, well, go make your own cult, like go do your own shit with it. Grateful Dead, it's just like you're worshiping this band and they're on stage. You're once again doing the tithing. You're like going on these pilgrimages to see them, but it's like you're saying, it's just someone else's culture that they're forcing on you in the 90s. Like no, this is still cool. This is still cool, guys. Come on.
Yeah, and to some people it was, but to me it reminds me of like it gave me an empty feeling, and I think that's where it is. It's like there was no encouragement outside of that mold that the Dead were. It's like, well, there's a guy named Jerry, if you like, he looks like Santa Claus, and there's a guy named Bob, and also Punk made fun of Grateful Dead, which also like because I knew sometimes when someone else like I'll something will not hit me right. Like no offense to Family Guy, but I was like I saw a couple Family Guy episodes. I was like I'm not into it. And then South Park did this thing called Cartoon Wars where they like savaged Family Guy. And then for a minute I was with him. And I'm still in, but I'm like, oh, now I know why I don't like him. You like kind of spoon fed me from a cartoonist perspective and a writing perspective. I'm like, why this show isn't good. And it's very catty, but sometimes someone else will bring that, like Punk brought that out with me in the Dead, where I was like, I felt like that was sort of the Dead Milkmen made fun of the Grateful Dead.
Yeah, and Teen Idols too. Ian MacKaye.
Teen Idols, yeah, that's right.
There's a yeah, like, but then it's funny because like the Grateful Dead, and this is like I hated them. I fucking had no time for it as a kid, and then as an adult, once I started smoking weed, go figure, I was like, well, like let's maybe these two Jerry Garcia solo records aren't terrible, and then I listened to the first Grateful Dead record, and then I had to stop because everything else is unlistenable, but I can see why people would like it, but like you're saying, it wasn't my reality and it wasn't my culture, and it wasn't cool fucking hippies that maybe knew Manson hanging out in San Francisco taking drugs. By the time I was into it, it was like just the annoying kids in my school that were just like falling into it just because that's what you did by default. Like, oh shit, you're saying I can't play sports anymore, might as well get into this thing that my parents liked.
Exactly. And then also probably I had parents who were silent generation, not Gen X. I'm Gen X, but most of my peers' parents were younger and they were boomers. And my parents were silent generation, so they're like they missed the Beatles.
Yeah.
So the fact of the matter is there was no Grateful Dead in my house, so it was easier to not be a Deadhead probably to some level. But I remember that was like a choice you had to make in seventh or like eighth grade. It was just like, what kind of skater adjacent person are you going to be? Are you going to be a Deadhead or punker? And I was like punk all the way because it spoke to me, and it wasn't even a choice. It was like this speaks to me. This does not speak to me. So I'm just like following my instinct.
Yeah, like it really was one of the greatest. Once again, not to beat this religion thing to death, but it was almost like a religious experience once I kind of found this thing where shit, kids can go here. It doesn't matter if you're cool. It doesn't matter what the fuck you're wearing. No one's going to judge anything because you're just here amongst 10 other people watching a band that can barely play in a basement of a record store. And that's the coolest shit in the world. And why would you want to be anywhere else?
Yeah. I think people missed out.
Yeah,
I really do. I look back and I'm like, a lot of people missed out on something like, going through, at the time CD and tape deck, like just spending hours at a record store. It reminded me of like just a few years earlier going through a comic book store and being like finding all the things. And then one day it was like, now it's this music. And I don't know. I listened to a lot. I don't have a lot of hard stuff here in California. I have stuff at home, like some old vinyl and stuff like that. But I miss that. I can't bring it back because I'm too cluttery. I do like things for some reason because it's just like clutter. I get clutter, and the less I have, the happier I am. So.
You can't see it now because I'm not at home, but I'm normally surrounded by these possessions that are my prison, and these records that, like you're saying, it's just I don't know, they're like artifacts when you first get them as a kid, like connect the pieces, and it's you're like you're saying, you miss out if you're not into this thing because you also like you met Eric because of the punk connection. You meet some of the most interesting people I've met throughout my life were involved in punk. It's going through the thanks list in Eric's part of the book where he's like jackass. I'm like, oh, I like Aaron was on this podcast, Jason was on this podcast, and Steve was on this podcast. Like, all of them completely different versions of punk, but all of them came out of punk rock. And like, you know, Jack Black, he's like another guy that came out of punk rock too. Like, there's just so
totally
weird people, like interesting people in every walk of life that came out of this thing.
My wife has a friend, she's an actress, but I became friends with her too. Her name is Sarah Burns, who she was on Barry for a few seasons recent. That's her most recent thing, but she's been in some stuff. And she was really into punk rock, and we talk a lot about specifically the thing is first Minor Threat album, which we talked about before, but she was there the night G.G. Allen died.
She was
her
at the
story.
Last, yep, she was at the last G.G. Allen show at the gas
last show.
She was on the show, and it
she was on your show.
Yeah, it blew my fucking mind because it was like, I'm a fan of, you know, from everything she's been in, like Drunk History, obviously Barry and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But was it How to Get Away with Murder? That
okay.
My wife and I were obsessed with that during the pandemic. Like, just depressed watched like 9 seasons in the course of a month. And she's like a main character in it. And to find out that she was at that last G.G. Allen show was just like, what the fuck?
And this brings us full circle. Now I know why I know you, Sarah Burns.
Sarah Burns.
And I just spoke to her. I spoke about her, spoke about Vince as if you didn't know these people. And I'm like, you know that? Okay. Because Sarah posted that, because I find that story, because she told it to me kind of in passing without the story. Just I was there. And then we had her on the show. I brought her on to Eric Andre show season 2, and then Eric went into it. And then that night, I remember I went out with Sarah and Margot, and she told the full story. And it's her story to tell, but it was like, oh, wow. Because like I saw G.G. Allen, never saw him live in a zine. I can't remember what it was, but I remember being like, why would anyone, like, I would never go near a guy throwing poo. That to me, poop and pee, I'm like, razor blades, I'm like, I'm out. The big 3 together, this guy's guaranteed to be into that stuff. I'm like, I wouldn't go near it. So that's why I was like, oh, you're very brave. I mean, I don't think he ever came upstate New York. If he did, I never heard that he did, but that was a no-go. But I've been fascinated with that guy's existence. That's Todd Haynes' best movie, hands down.
Absolutely.
Hands down. Like, I don't mean to make fun of it. I'm not making fun of his other stuff. His other stuff's, I didn't like the Joker. I thought it was like an incel-y, but the first Hangover was okay. But I'm like, the G.G. Allen. If I ever met Todd Haynes,
is it Todd Phillips or Todd Haynes?
Todd Phillips. Todd Phillips. Todd Haynes is the other director. Todd Phillips. If I ever met him, that's what I'd talk about the whole time.
100%.
Like that is you were around like a dirt messiah of horridness who is just a complete negative thing, but it's fascinating. Like I wouldn't have followed him around with a camera.
Yeah, like if we're once again going back to this religion bullshit, and this is like a polytheistic thing, he's like the devil.
Yeah. My wife once goes, why are you obsessed with G.G. Allen? I'm like, oh, I'm not obsessed with him. I'm like, woo, I'm glad, like, I'm not like glad he's dead, but I'm like, kind of am. Like, I'm like, that guy like, there was no boogeyman in punk rock to me more than G.G. Allen. Like, because everyone else had a point, I felt. Like, to some degree, I'm like, this guy doesn't have a point. He's just like sheer nihilism. And he's broken. And he was born, you don't name your kid Jesus Christ. That was his name, Jesus Christ Allen. Did you know that?
Yeah, you don't slip him acid. That was the other thing, right? That broke his brain when his brother and his friend slipped him acid, apparently.
Oh, that's that what happened? That one of the...
I think they say that in Hated at one point when they go up, I think, to visit his family. And they're like, yeah, we slipped him acid one time. He was never the same. Yeah.
Like Dee Dee Ramone was in the band for like a week.
Oh,
they had that shot where he's like, just join the merge jug, he's gonna be sick. And it was just like Dee Dee Ramone left 4 days later. They played 2 gigs.
I want to do like a documentary from all the episodes that turned out of punk, like 6 Degrees of G.G. Allen, and just have like all the weird G.G. Allen interactions that people had throughout punk. Because like, you know what, Hated that scene where he's doing the reading at the university and he sticks the banana in his ass?
Yeah, yeah.
Walter Schreifels was in the crowd.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when he was on the show, he's like, "Yeah, I was at that thing." You can't. He's like, "You can kind of see me run away when they pan to the
Yeah.
audience when he starts throwing the banana." But it seems like no one believed. Like it's pre-YouTube, pre-social media, right? So no one believed Gigi was real.
Yeah, I barely did. I realized he was real, but originally it was just in print, and I remember the look. He had bashed his head in with a microphone a bunch of times, and he was just like, he's just. And I remember what he was going off on specifically was Guns N' Roses. It's like parents think Guns N' Roses are bad. Those guys. It's just like I drink my own diarrhea, and you're like, okay, yeah, they don't do that,
I worked in a video store and we had this thing called the Affliction video. Have you seen this
right?
shit? It's got
No,
like Annie Sprinkle in it. It's got all these different performance artists from the 90s in it. Mike Diana, that comic artist guy that was like
yeah.
all that shit. He's in it. He takes a bunch of Epicac and throws up on a Bible, but it takes awkwardly long for him to take effect. So he's just like talking about it for so long before he's able to throw up on it. At one point, a guy jerks off and then stabs his penis with a pin, and blood comes out. His cum comes out at the same time. But this is but this is building up to Gigi Allen's part, where Gigi Allen's got a thing of fries on his chest and puts a fry in a woman's ass and pulls it out, and then just diarrhea all over the French fries, and then he's eating the fucking French fries.
He was so he would there was no way. I don't know how he was able to exist in public for as long as he did.
Yeah. I think because it's like pre-internet, right? Like, so no
Yeah.
one's believing this shit. Have you watched that, the last video, like after Sarah watches Gigi play, he goes walking down the Lori side, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you watch that video, because I rewatched it after Sarah was on the podcast trying to find her in the crowd and stuff. There's this part where this couple, like very much like seems like a New York kind of art couple holding their like small child, go up to Gigi and he's covered in shit and covered in blood. And they're like, Kevin, Kevin. And they give him a big hug and give him a kiss, hello, and then hand him the baby because Gigi gives the baby a kiss. The guy calls her husband over or like her partner or whatever, and he comes over. He's like, "Hey, great to see you." And talking to Gigi, like must know him from the art world, I guess. And it's like, don't these people smell him? Like, can't you?
They're like, he is a canvas. Like this guy, this is the guy I told you about. He's a canvas, and his fluids are his medium.
I felt bad putting my kids down on a change table in the public restroom, and here they are handing it to Gigi.
Oh yeah, I don't miss that at all. I forgot how to do that. It's great.
That's amazing.
I deleted it. 6. I've been out of the game for a while.
I
have to. Yeah, go ahead.
I've kept you far too long, and you probably have stuff to do tonight.
But I really appreciate you having us on. Now I know why. Because I started following you after Sarah. Sarah posted you, and I'm like, I like this guy. And then right at the end of the podcast, we figure it out. I was like, that makes sense.
Well, I knew we would have a great time when I heard you mention One King Down on a podcast, and everyone knows sell it, and me being like, oh my God, we could talk for 2 hours just about One King Down if need be.
Oh, Mike Scoville. I was in a band with him. I sucked.
I know.
I was like, I was absolutely shit. And
what was the band like? What was the vibe of this band though? Was it
our band? Well, he's 2 years younger than me. I had a car. That was a big part of it. And I'm tone deaf. And like he to me, he was he was a virtuoso on the guitar. He was the best dude around, hands down, on guitar. And he basically told me what to do.
so was it
and I was but like and then he was like Bill, his brother, played bass in Withstand, and the Withstand broke up, and then like he dumped us, and correctly, I might add, formed One King Down like right afterwards. And then when I listen to One King Down now, I'm like, I can hear and remember. It's so his style, like the way he plays was so specific, and I'm like, that's fucking Mike Scoville, and I just know it just from and I consider myself very lucky to have like at least been in something that was with such a who I think is a brilliant guitar artist, and shaping songs. I sound like an idiot when I talk about music.
No, believe me, I've been in a band for so fucking long, and I can't play a note. So you hear me talk about it.
Yeah.
What about Devoid of Faith? Did you ever see those guys? Or
I
Monster X?
never saw Monster X. I remember. I never saw Devoid of Faith. I remember another big band, Stigmata,
Yes.
the Troy Stigmata.
Yeah.
With what was his name? Bob Riley was the singer of them. They were intense.
It's interesting. I got a friend, Jason Green, who sang in the Orchid, and he grew up in Connecticut, and he's like, he's talking about going to these shows where these are like hard ass fucking bands. Like Stigmata is like a hard band.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they were hard.
And it's like, it's so interesting how now hardcore's gravitated so much more to that sound, but it was such a small scene back then with very large men on stage.
Yeah. Mike's the Scoville brothers are little guys. Like Mike was anyway. But you know what? I realize now I knew him when he was still growing. That's like that. Like that's how young he was. He was like not a fully grown man yet.
Stigmata played Toronto, and they got double booked with a Promise Ring show. So Blood for Blood and Stigmata had to play at 2 p.m. on like a Wednesday. And there were probably 4 people there for that show. It was great though. They were very pissed off. If you want to see a very pissed off Stigmata, see him play for 4 people.
No, I've seen him pack the house. I mean, the South Troy Community Center was where I saw a lot of those shows at that time, and that was like the Troy venue probably at like 92, 93. And then there's like Saratoga Winners, which is, and then Albany had QE2. That's where I got punched in the face at at the Earth Crisis show.
So were there any bands that were more like what you liked in terms of,
No, like I loved the Minutemen.
Yeah.
Like I was like gaga for them. And that time had passed. It was 7 years old at that point, which is light years in punk rock and everything like that. And my town itself is Clifton Park, which is kind of like a jerk off town. I always say that, but it is. And so like I have like the people who I know from there who know I like them. You know what I mean? So it's not like I'm like, hey, Dan, you're calling me a jerk off. I'm like, no, not you.
Yeah,
I talk to you. But again, like I felt like there weren't many people who got it, who understood. It's like you said, like it's like there's this whole huge thing happening right now, and then this other subculture was already between the jocks and the punks. It was the hippies, and that was like huge. And I guess that's very upstate New York, but it bothered me at the time. Then I forgot about it, and then recently, for whatever reason, I've been thinking about it again because it's just like that was weird. like growing up's weird, and things changed so much. And you're like, and these were my concerns back then. My surface concerns. Like, no, you like the Dead? Oh man.
But there was also like those divides in punk, right? Like, pop punk kid. Like now you realize like all this shit is basically one thing. But back then, like the smallest difference was ginormous.
It was ginormous. I remember I liked Life of Agony, which people would say, that's a metal band. They would just say that to you. They're a metal band. They're not hardcore. And I'd be like, okay. Like the amount of times I had to be like, okay, I like the album. I could cut the Suicide parts in it, the River Runs Red album, and I'm like, is it metal? So I listened to it recently. I'm like, maybe it's metal. I don't know. I don't know because I was in 10th grade when that was hitting. But that was I remember that was the big sticking point. Like people like pointed it out. Like, you know what? That's not even authentic. Like it's authentic. It's just its own thing.
Well, yeah, and it's like people protect this shit because it was so important, right? Like it was like it's because someone's not playing this type of music you like correctly in your mind. You have to chastise anyone that listens to that band.
That guy, there's also just like interscene, like being from upstate New York, of the New York scenes, like New York City was the center of it. But Jersey and Long Island, specifically Long Island kids, were very like, you guys are like derp. Like Long Island people were really condescending to upstate people. Because it's almost like we're from closer to the city, buddy, or we're basically the city. but like the city people, and remember all those bands like Sick of It All, those bands would come up and they were so nice because they were just like happy that this thing that they had, they could drive in one day and night. It's like 2.5 hours away, but they could play a gig and theoretically, if they felt like it, drive home.
Once you're even in a band period, you're like, I don't fucking care. Like, as long as the kids aren't Nazis, I don't give a fuck what this kid's like, or if this kid likes more metal music or more punk music. As long as they're here responding to what I'm putting out there.
Exactly.
That's fucking amazing.
That's everything.
Yeah.
I have to go because
I do have to let you go. But this has been awesome. Come back.
It's been a great. Thank you for promoting the book, Dumb Ideas. Me and Eric, thanks for reading what you could.
And come back sometime. We'll talk more punk
I
stuff.
will. We'll do. We'll talk about One King Down. I'll send this to Mike Scoville. I'll be like, hey man, I talked all this shit. I talked a bunch of shit about you.
Thank you for coming on the show, Eric and Dan and Eric. And you heard right there, Dan will definitely be back for a part 2. Eric, I don't know. I didn't really get a firm commitment one way or the other, but Dan will definitely be back for a part 2 at some point in the future. Pick up that book, Dumb Ideas, wherever you find your books. Hopefully in a store. Check it out in a store. But if you buy it online, I'm sure that works too. However you get your books, get a book. Read. Just learn to read. All right, on the next episode of Turned Out a Punk, let's keep the duos going and roll on into a return and a first time. Coming back to the show, Jason Udarcy from the Bob Mold Trio, from Superchunk, from Verboten, from the Cleaning Ladies, one song from the Cleaning Ladies, from tons of other stuff. I'm Sunday Real Estate. Jason is one of my favorite people in the whole world, one of the most beloved people in all of music, and he will be joining us along with his buddy, and I guess my new friend now after this show, actor extraordinaire from so many movies. We could run through his IMDb, but we'll do the intro for the next episode. But Michael Shannon, and the two of them will be discussing their musical collaborations and just kind of getting into punk and acting and fun stories. It's a good one. It is a good episode. Well, that's it for me. Remember, as always, Black Lives Matter. The lives and issues faced by Indigenous peoples all over the world matter. We need to protect trans kids and help trans people protect themselves and their rights and make sure that people have the right to choose what they want to do with their reproductive systems. Because we're not talking about political issues here. These are just basic human rights issues. So get involved in organizations that are affecting positive change if you want to see positive change happen in this world. There are organizations that could use your time, your money, your support, whatever. Speaking about getting involved, get involved in punk. Start a band, start a fanzine, start a podcast. No, not a podcast, but anything. Because this culture gets better when you start contributing to it. And things that get better when you contribute to it, organ donor programs. Because without you, there's no organs to donate. And I've seen that shit perform miracles, as I say all the time. So sign those cards to donate those organs. And if all this shit is stressing you out, try meditating. It really does help. Breathing and whatnot. No specific doctrine or practice. Just try one that works for you. And I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you for listening. Bye.